Okay, here we go. Yes, here we go, everybody. We're going to be starting in just a couple of minutes. It's a little rainy out, and I really also want to focus on the situation with the trans dad. We did more on that North Providence story when that happened, so I know a lot about that story. Hi there, Garney. He was cousins with the ex. There's a lot of things about this family. I also I want to just we're going to start. Hi there, Kara. We're going to start. Let me just double check, but I think the audio should be totally fine. I want to and we have some news. I've broken some news on this. It may not seem like a big deal, but I want to be very clear to many of you that the coverage is not designed for the family. Maybe I should say that again. Our coverage, news coverage, it's not designed for the family. So these people like that's enough. The family's grieving. Enough of it. I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing it for everybody else. Who decides? Who decides? Who are these people that decide the story's over? That's it. Thank you very much, Matt. The story's over. That's it. No more on this. Like, who are these people? I don't watch baseball anymore, but I don't claim I don't say that's it. No one's watching baseball anymore. I just don't watch it. You don't have to follow. You don't have to watch. Other people are interested, but I'm not doing the coverage. Let me do coverage designed for the family. Like, what are you talking about? Now we have news because there's parts of this that are unusual. There's parts of it that people want to talk about, and there's also elements of this of what was the trigger. Now I believe that I know what it is, and we did post on it. I posted it. I did a TikTok on it. I posted it here on Facebook, and then I also posted on X. First of all, they were all, thank you, Pete. They were all terrified of this individual. This business of Governor McKee and some of these others, Seth Magaziner, of let's. It's all about gun violence, is what they try to say. But from what I understand, and no one has this, so you're going to hear this. I get people that clearly don't follow and watch. So they're like, how do you know that? How come no one else has this? Yeah, we break a lot of news, as many of you know. But apparently, I do have this posted. So the trans hockey parent, but what I've learned is his mother passed away, Joanne Dorgan, earlier this month. And her deathbed wish was don't tell Roberta. I don't want my former son, now supposedly daughter, She-Man, I don't want them going anywhere near this. So the family didn't tell him on her wishes. On February 6th, they gathered in North Providence at Robin's Funeral Home. Now, I went on their website. They don't have it, but the funeral home people said to me, if a family wishes, we don't post their obit. So that's why if you log on, you're not going to see Joanne Dorgan. So from what I've learned is when Roberta found out about it, he felt that, hi there, Bill, that the ex-wife and the family was disloyal to him. But there were many people, they were terrified of him. You know what else? As much as and the media has been, as I've been saying, and we talked about that, they've been struggling with the story because they don't want to say anything negative about the transgender community. But there's several things. First of all, it's not a good idea that they married his cousin, and I don't understand the people that say, why is it news that his son was the North Providence arsonist? If you don't understand that that's news, I can't help you. But it is news. And that's not me. Everybody's had it. But what should also be examined. Okay, so people say, I don't want to judge that he went through full transformation, had his unit removed, had breast implants put in, and then was taking um, female hormones. But I'm pretty sure that you shouldn't be mixing that with steroids. Look how there's no guy that age that is jacked normally. There's no way. And I've already heard from people that knew him, her, whatever you want. I don't want to get lost in the pronoun. Knew the shooter from the gym, and he was a big Roy person, whether it's male, female, I don't know. So, and there's also a story of some woman that worked with him in New Hampshire. Oh, it's terrible. She was so like using the pronouns, so crazed. But why not? Why doesn't the media do a story about that? Like, I know that the traditional media, they're uncomfortable. Anything negative about gun, they immediately, that anything, if they can blame gun violence, they want to blame gun violence. And they don't want to say anything bad about the transgender. But at the very least, I think it's a worthwhile discussion that, and I'm going to be talking about Nancy later half of this hour, and then I will be out. Go to, I did not go out to the scene yet. It's overcast here. It's a little cloudy. I'm not sure what to make of that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And now here again, if I check my messages, here's the family again. Take down the posts. I don't know what you're talking about. So these people, I, he had his demons. All right, here's my message to the family. Why didn't you call him out for the Nazi tattoo? This whole business, and it's not like I'm alone covering it. Reach out to Channel 10. Reach out to the New York Post. I don't know about that, but it's someone that was certainly struggling. But the element of, and as much as there's some people and the family and some of their friends and others that want to say, stop talking about it, that motive is still huge in this case. And motive officially has not been released. And by the way, I'm not convinced that our local, the police and investigating, that they're ever going to reveal that. But I think should be revealed. As far as people saying, oh no, he was fine at the rink. That's not what I hear from other parents. Some guy parading around in a dress and with Nazi tattoos, as you have families there. No, that didn't, let me be very clear. That didn't make people comfortable. People were not comfortable with that. You're kidding themselves. This is always, how are the other victims? They haven't given any information. I'll answer that. The family is saying, stop talking about it. But one family member that night, and again, good afternoon, where you are, it's afternoon, it's still morning. Check out tepetro.com, which is brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue in West Warwick. As we like to say, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, the waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. It was the sister, or the daughter, excuse me, that walked by the Boston TV station and said, my father is very mentally ill. That started it. I have people, I do, it's not like I don't see it. I have people messaging me saying, stop talking about it. And then a headline comes up, daughter does an interview with the New York Post. So if the family's talking about it, why can't we talk about it? This wasn't, and I want to be very clear, this wasn't in their home that this happened. This happened in a hockey rink with about 100 people there. Now, in fairness, someone sent me an email. We want to buy all the kids that were there new equipment. Well, no one was injured. I mean, he didn't fire at anybody. So I'm sure it was traumatizing for the kids there. But suddenly now there's a GoFundMe. They want to buy them all new hockey equipment. I'm not, what? Like, why do we have to buy them new skates? They need counseling. They need to be able to deal with what they were traumatized by. That 100%. But I wouldn't equate new skates and a new hockey stick with that's the way. See, that is, I hate to bring in politics, but that's the Democrat progressive way. Just throw money at it. Just throw money at it. But they're ignoring the larger issue. Now, we do have some up on this, not a lot. Again, I've been working overtime here, still in Tucson. I'm going to talk about Nancy second half of this hour. But check out our website, depetro.com, where we have links to all of our social media, depetro.com, brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. So we like to say lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. Also, don't forget about Propane Plus for all your propane needs. Contact Propane Plus, 401 885 4209, or in Massachusetts, 508 252 3359 for Propane Plus. I'm aware there's a GoFundMe for the family, but I'm also aware that if you want to talk about the family, then there is a certain family member that legally would be entitled to some of the proceeds, and that would be the North Providence arsonist. So people can donate to whatever they want, but I would just be aware you have the right to know how much of the proceeds are going to go to the young man that tried to burn down that church in North Providence. He's part of the family. Don't tell me he wouldn't be entitled to it. He's a member of the family. Now, I haven't posted this. Other news outlets are picking up on this. The Providence Journal has posted this. This is the Providence Journal now. Don't get angry with me. Go after the state newspaper. Why both families have the last name Dorgan. Both the Pawtucket ice rink shooter, Robert Dorgan, who also went by Roberta, and one of their victims, Rhonda Dorgan, had the same last name before they were married in 1992. According to the Providence Journal, this is because they're first cousins, once removed. Now, I'm not posting on that. Other news outlets are posting on that. Other people are then leaping to maybe it's not a good idea to breed within families, so to speak. But I want to come back to all these people, and I saw someone post all these people saying the GoFundMe for the family. I want to just remind people, I had someone posting the family had no problem with Roberta being at the rink. I want to come back to this is someone posting anti-Semitic things online and posting pictures that have been broken out and identified as Nazi tattoos. So for the Providence Journal, or for like that Eric, whatever his name is, Eric Rube, somebody like that. I don't really know him. He just covers JV sports or something like that. But for the family to be like, oh no, we don't have a problem. Well, you should have had a problem with that. You should have had a problem with that. Maybe here's a heads up to the family. See, this is wrong. And if you want to say that, we loved Roberta when Roberta made the transformation, that's fine. But at the very least, for them to be saying, like, we don't have a problem with how the trans person was behaving, I come back to why don't they, you're at a high school hockey game and this dude with the hair roided up and a Nazi tattoo is parading around in short shorts. So, excuse me. Like, see, that's the problem with the LGBTQ community and that crowd is there should never be criticism of it. And I'm seeing, people posting like, oh, that's homophobic. And like, what are you talking about? This is someone, yeah, he belonged at Butler Hospital, not spending, apparently had debt problems. Roberta, the shooter. caused hell for his family and those poor kids. But don't tell me everyone was okay with it, because if you were okay with it, that means you were okay with all of it. That means you were okay with the anti Semitic talk. That means you were okay with the Nazi tattoos. This notion of, and I'm not going to reveal who sent it to me. Yes, that is exactly right, Nicole. And I've been saying that. Gay is very different than trans. You want to be a gay guy? Be a gay guy, right? Just like that gay guy or whatever. Then just be a gay guy. You want to be, you're a female, you're attracted to other females, fine. Most trans are white males. But this is someone to me, and this is something that Justin Katz and I have talked about, is the transformation to me was really masking mental illness and be reaffirmed that way. So the whole idea, if the media wants to cover this responsibly, maybe use this as an opportunity to talk about if you're having gender changing drugs, and it's a lot to go through. I mean, from what I understand, he had the male part of the body removed. Like, that's extreme. That's what I was told. And who gets implants? I mean, that's like high degree. That's high degree. This isn't, I want to be very clear. And I know I'm different than some other members of at least the media in the Rhode Island, Mass area. See this? That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. This is not, hey, you be you. Good for you. You go, girl. Wrong. You know what that is? That's someone that is in need of extreme mental health, really putting it out there. And how severe for the people that are saying, and I am getting it, by the way, huge, very, very different than gay or lesbian. Somehow the whole element of the trans has been normalized, or they attempt to normalize it. And I also want to be clear that think how that's why it is so dangerous when children go into this. You don't know what the end result is going to be. Now, this individual who had a pattern of very erratic behavior and mean, I mean, he was terrorizing people. Again, it is his mother passing away and saying, don't even tell, I don't want that thing, at my funeral. And I am being told that's what, now the thing is, I believe that's what I've been told, that's what really set the shooter off. But that's disgraceful. Okay. And as much as the Rhode Island Interscholastic League, come on. I mean, let's be real here for a minute. A guy parading around with whatever, growing the hair out in a dress, and he's got Nazi tattoos. Stop like people, oh, that did, like that, what's his name from the Journal? Oh, that didn't make anyone uncomfortable. Everyone accepted it. I like this. Everyone accepted how courageous he was. Let me just be very clear. That's not courageous. Okay. It's embarrassing. The kids had no choice. The kids had no choice. The kids, what are they supposed to do? Right? You're dealing with, I'm sure they were relieved when Roberta moved to Florida or then moved to Maine. It's like, as long as they're not around, just absolutely problematic. Loud in the gym, very, very in your face, go after people on the pronouns. Oh my God, the whole thing with the pronouns. People also need to understand this whole business of trans, that's not gay. There are, I listen, it shouldn't even, to me, it shouldn't be in the same conversation. And as a matter of fact, to me, the quote LGBT community, they shouldn't have been so, it's almost as if they had trans like shoved on them. That is not a gay man. That is not a gay woman. That is someone to me someone who actually believes they're in the wrong gender and then starts trying to change in that way. the surgery, that stuff is very dangerous. The drugs they give you are very dangerous. Mix that with roid rage. I mean, he was clearly using roids, blowing up his body in that way. Abnormal behavior, very abnormal behavior. I also want to point out, apparently, with someone who has had mental schizophrenic episodes where they're marrying their cousin. I mean, it's, three different women, I believe, 6 kids, but from 3 different women. This individual is toxic. This individual, stop saying, like, look at how they're conditioned to say, we accepted Roberta. Well, no, you were enabling this. You were enabling this. I don't see someone finally at peace with themselves. I see someone in a severe mental crisis that various individuals, whether it be, and big part of this, it is the progressives, the liberals, the LGBTQ trans community, Rhode Island leaders. When you have teachers, public school teachers saying, that's brave, how courageous. Roberta should be, as Governor McKee said, Roberta should be celebrated. Celebrated. What an absolute, I mean, you can't be a bigger jerk than whatever pronoun you want to use, but that's not a gay guy and that's not a gay woman. That is someone that morphed into, who had basically a total breakdown with reality. So much that his own or her mother said, keep that person away. I don't want them anywhere near. I don't want to, I'm in the hospital. I know my time is short or whatever at home. I don't want that person coming here. I don't want, and nothing at my service. So I've learned the shooter finds out, and then no one told me about, that my own mother passed away. Terrible. All right. This portion of our program is brought to you by another example of why to call my friend Mike Rizzo, Capital Fence. Folks, there's a lot of lunatics out there. 401 618 4407. CapitalFenceRI.com. They're based in Cranston. Fence and Gate, most trusted for privacy and security, serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts. They do repair and maintenance, highest quality. It'll last for years. Installation, durable, automated gates, free estimate, and they're licensed and insured. Call owner Mike Rizzo at 401 618 4407 for Capital Fence. Get a fence installed at your home or business. Protect yourself, your family, your pets, your grandchildren, your children, or your employees. Capital Fence. And I also want to make the distinction that I think, we can talk about. It's being covered for those that want to cover it in the news. It is being covered that why can't it be looked at that there is something with this trans violence? According to the Rhode Island media or the New York Times, the shooter apparently had 2 names. Why can't it be talked about? Why can't it be examined? I have had people attacking me on various platforms. Homophobic, rude, hateful comments. Why is that a discussion we can't have? Sure seems to be someone masking a much larger problem that is going on. I want to just check. We are dealing there. Oh, okay. Well, that's not a good sign. I won't read who sent this to me. So I commented on one of your posts urgent. Please stop reporting about the shooter and the family. I'm a close family member. We're grieving. It's been horrific. Seeing reports like yours is acting like an ambulance chaser of a news reporter. Listen to this, Rob had his demons. His family has to make peace in spite of those demons. I have nothing against his children. I feel bad for them. They lost a mother, brother, stepmother, father, all within seconds. This business, and it doesn't mean I'm uncaring. Listen, I don't know how else to tell you. I'm not going to reveal who sent this to me. They should not be on the page. I don't know what else to tell you. They should not be on the page. The news is not designed for, and it's not like just me. If you're Channel 10, Channel 12, whoever, and tonight our report is focused on for the family to watch. Like, no, they shouldn't be watching anything like this. I'll tell you this, they've been living through a hell. They've been dealing with a hell that clearly no one was prepared to deal with. But I want to read a little bit of Joan Vernacki in the Boston Globe. I've interviewed her in the past. I've spoken with her, and I want to just find. She had a good piece, Joan Vernacki in the Globe, that talked about. Here it is. Listen to this. Now, again, this is the Boston Globe talking honestly about gender, mental health, and violence. She writes, leave it to the New York Post to present the tragedy of a mass shooting through every possible lens of the culture wars that divide this country. As one Post headline put it, crazed trans shooter Robert Dorgan was a Nazi lover who spewed hate in disturbing posts. So she writes, that satisfies those who want to blame right-wing politics for violent behavior, as well as those who want to blame left-wing politics and embrace fluid gender identity. Somewhere in that, more people, blah, blah, blah. What role, if any, did the shooter's transgender identity play in the deadly attack? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And if you're a friend of the family, they shouldn't be reading the New York Post. They shouldn't be reading the Boston Globe. They shouldn't be on my page. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. How self-absorbed are these people? Stop talking about the story. As if I'm like dominating. I mean, the national outlets are all over it. Back to Joan Vernacki. Advocates for the transgender community are quick to shut down that line of inquiry. Trans people are far more likely to be the victims of violence than the perpetrators. The overwhelming majority of mass shooters are straight. They tend to be ultra conservative, MAGA, Trump supporters. Listen to this. This is from someone with the GLBTQ Massachusetts Political Caucus. Most shooters tend to be MAGA, Trump supporters who hate women, gays, blacks, Jews. That is moronic. A spokesperson for GLAAD cited studies showing transgender people responsible for fewer than 0.1% of the mass shootings. Yet they're 4 times more likely to experience violent victimization. So she writes, by the numbers, transgender perpetrators are clearly outliers. But when a mass shooting occurs, the focus, whether justified or not, is often on the religious or political views of the alleged offender. And in the Rhode Island case, on gender identification, wishing it away as a topic of conversation doesn't make it go away. Dorgan went by many names. Roberta Esposito, who I think I've learned was his father's name, maybe? I don't know. Roberta Dorgan. According to the Washington Post, day before the shooting, I've seen responding to things to people on X. Officials are calling this a case of domestic violence. But as various media outlets have reported, court documents indicate that gender transition and mental illness were a source of the family conflict. When Dorgan's wife, Rhonda Dorgan, filed for divorce 6 years ago, she cited gender reassignment surgery, narcissistic and personality traits before changing the grounds for divorce to differences, irreconcilable differences. The divorce was finalized a year later. It's the second shooting incident perpetrated by a transgender person to make national headlines in less than a week, and the second mass shooting in Rhode Island in 2 months. They talk about in Canada. Jessie, 18, killed her mother and 11-year-old brother and killed 5 students. In that case, the shooter was raised as a boy and began transitioning to female. Documented history of mental health issues. Is that someone that should be transitioning? Again, this is Joan Vernacki in the Boston Globe. Last May, an article in Commentary Magazine asked the question, do transgender Americans commit crime at higher rates or different types? The conclusion, we have no idea. Crime data regularly tracks race, age, educational. They're not collecting data for trans offenders. Among the incidents cited is the March 2023 killing, 3 children at the Covenant School in Nashville. Aiden Hale, born female, identified as a transgender man. Reporting the shooting was filed, does not list gender identity as a factor. It instead identifies Hale's quest for notoriety as the motive. Meanwhile, the report notes it refers to Hale as female because under Tennessee law, a person's gender identity must correspond with their biological sex. The report describes Hale as highly depressed, highly suicidal. These are extremely difficult for the transgender community, she writes. The attacks of the 2024 presidential campaign, Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you, quickly morphed into executive orders that declared only 2 genders and banned transgender women and girls. Listen, that's been a problem with youth sports. And Massachusetts is one of the hubs of it. It's New England states, Rhode Island, Mass, Connecticut. As Governor McKee said, the student decides what gender they are. That's not how it works. Governor McKee, if the student feels that they identify being on the girls' field hockey team, then that's not how it should work. Right? Sabina Matos. It's up to the student to decide if they feel more comfortable swimming with boys or girls. No. It doesn't work that way. And the same thing for track and field. She writes, it's for sure anti-trans sentiment is the red meat for conservatives. Of course, the transgender community is much more vulnerable. But shutting down the conversation around incidents like the Rhode Island shooting, because how it energizes MAGA world does no one any good, especially not the transgender community. We need more conversation, not less, about the toll of society's cruelty on a person's mental health, no matter what their politics or gender identity. Again, that is Joan Vanacki in the Boston Globe, and I agree with her. This business, folks, I like that she also echoed the people that are trying to shut down conversation. And I'm sharing with you, I'm getting messages, don't talk about it, don't bring it up. Just so everyone's clear, I was the first one to post that this individual was transgender. The rest of, especially the local media, they really struggled with it. They didn't want to say that. That's not giving you news. That's not telling you what's going on. When this individual decided to go through the gender reassignment, is that what sent the son off into the son that had a lot of problems? Is that what then sent him off to try to burn down that church? I had people, I couldn't believe it yesterday saying, well, I don't understand why you're posting it. They're not related. How do you know that? Father and son, ice rink shooter, arsonist. The son is in federal prison in Texas right now. Is it possible that the father's decision to transition absolutely had the arsonist son lose his mind? I don't know. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by ServPro. Now remember, if you have a problem, water leaking, fire damage, anything like that, ServPro of Providence, water damage, fire, mold, storm recovery, you can call them at 401-941-5500, 401-941-5500, Serve Pro of Providence, and they're available 24/7. When disaster strikes, you can depend on Serve Pro of Providence, 401-941-5500. Let me also remind you, stop in and see Marie, the Queen of Health. What a great local retailer. It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Stop in and see the Queen. It's the Queen of Health, Marie, where she'll keep you healthy. She has just tremendous resource for natural herbs and spices. She has great local products. Support this fantastic local retailer, of which the area is so lucky to have someone like Marie. It's my health. 1099, because it is your health. 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. She also has great um, hemp and CBD products for people. It's my health. 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Now, I want to skim. I know people, obviously, for those that are watching, yes, I am still in Tucson. For those that are wondering about the story with the hockey trans shooter, I don't I don't think, I mean, to me, I'm not going to be just so you understand, I'm not going to be covering it. I'm not going to be posting on it. I'm glad to see the hero, the individual, the man that stepped in and really was a hero by wrestling the shooter down. I mean, that's part of it. But aside from that, where this is very different than the Brown situation, was with Brown, you had a manhunt. But this is odd. This is unusual. We're not going to keep talking about it. You know, many times with these stories, there's a short window. And for the family and friends that are like, stop talking about it. Well, I'm telling you, it's coming. It's getting closer. Simply because until there's no new news. Now, some people may not like, and I'm talking about some of the family and friends, that they may not like that people want to know motive. People want to know what is it that motivated that individual, Roberta, to drive down from Maine and do that. It's so horrific. And so to answer the question for those that are wondering, I believe there's some basic questions that need to be answered. And then tragically, the family, hopefully the people that are in the hospital will continue. Hopefully, I don't know what the conditions are. I also want to, people are asking, that's that the because the shooter is dead, the police are no longer involved in that. That's going to be up to the parents, the family, excuse me. Now, the boyfriend, who I understand is a Pawtucket, I think, assistant administrator. That's now it's personal. I mean, I'm not. People are asking me, "What's the condition?" I'm not reporting on that. I mean, if they say we want everyone to know, there is an attorney that reached out to me on behalf of the family. I posted his statement, but like this attitude that no one should be talking about it. It made international news, and the appearance of the shooter was like something out of a movie. And the more you learn, it was very active with social media and was always just seemingly trying to draw attention to themselves. So the good news, I don't think it's going to go on forever. There are other stories we're going to explore. I think the fact that Congressman Seth Magaziner visited illegals locked up by ICE who are being held at the Wyatt Detention Center. Seth Magaziner, the congressman, think of the American citizens who are at the ACI that he doesn't go visit. Think of, he took time out of his day. Rhode Island Congressman Seth Magaziner, he went to the Wyatt Detention Center to meet with illegals, killers and drug dealers who were scooped up by ICE. He went to the Wyatt Detention Center to show them and give them his support. I am telling you, the state is just absolutely broken right now, I believe. Um, just completely lost. I want to just make sure I'm not missing any news. Some big news of the day, obviously, is the Prince Andrew thing. I think that's really interesting with Prince Andrew, that his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was he gave him inside financial information. he would be aware of trade deals and, proprietary confidential information, Prince Andrew, in exchange for, they developed a nice little rapport there. That that is interesting, that they um that's essentially what got him in trouble. Now, Brian Enton just crossed into Mexico to see if people have heard of the Nancy Guthrie case. Okay, that's interesting. I am thinking of maybe going to Mexico this weekend to check it out, but I don't know yet. I mean, I'm very close. I've never been so close to the border. I'm 90 minutes away. I was thinking of contacting, but I don't know where exactly they are. The police, FBI say they've gotten 20,000 tips in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. That is amazing. It is day 19. DNA seems to be the focus. The amount of the reward is climbing. Who is that guy? I see him out there. Okay. Well, I'll give him a follow. Um, I think I also mentioned the element that I think they need to that the authorities with the Nancy Guthrie case are really drilling down on, is if they could somehow get lucky with big tech. If they could get somehow something, Google picks up something, it could end up being something they've never really utilized. I also think at this point, I don't think they have to worry about, can we prove it in court? I think you have to get a handle on, who was involved here. And then you could then figure out how you're going to make it stick. This is interesting. Some local news. Johnston man accused of stealing 3 town-owned snowplows. Police were called to the Johnston War Memorial, 9:30. They noticed the plows were missing. They showed a Chevrolet Silverado arriving at 1:04 in the morning, a man in dark clothing. Suspect came back at 1:49, 2:42, took 2 more plows. They tracked the truck to a home on Jasmine Lane with one of the stolen plows attached. The owner, identified as 46-year-old Joseph Masiri, was arrested, 3 felony counts of stolen goods. What is amazing is that he could even try to get away with it. Now, I want to go through some headlines here. For those that are wondering, it is day 19. And let's see. All right, here's some Rhode Island news. Rhode Island hospital released the wrong body to the funeral home. Oh my goodness. I'm just going to skim over the Channel 12 website. The family of a Providence woman who died in a fire last December is suing Rhode Island Hospital and a local funeral home, discovering the wrong remains were released and buried. The family's attorney, Paul Sullivan, said Amelia Severino was one of 2 victims. The deadly Christmas Day fire broke out on Princeton Street. Severino passed December 30th, spending 5 days in intensive care unit. Bell Funeral Home came to pick up the body. Rhode Island Hospital gave them the wrong remains. Bell Funeral Home never verified it had the correct body, never opened the body bag the remains were in. Wow. Family held a graveside closed casket burial, unaware the person inside the casket was not Severino. Rhode Island Hospital only learned this themselves when a different funeral home came to pick up the now buried body. They needed it back. When they realized what happened, the body was buried, exhumed, returned to Rhode Island Hospital. Oh my goodness. Bell Funeral Home then drove that body back to the gravesite, dropped the plaintiff's mother's body bag in the casket, and lowered it and buried the casket. Bell Funeral's home basically said no harm, no foul. Well, not exactly. Tucket shooting victim is a high school administrator. Now, that's, from what I understand, the mother's boyfriend. Thomas Geruso was at Lynch Arena with Rhonda Dorgan. Her parents, Linda and Gerald Dorgan, and her oldest son, Aiden, and his fiance. By the way, I want to be very clear. I heard Aiden was just a fantastic kid. He was set to get married this summer. I mean, it's just terrible. But that's why it was confusing to people of who, why would they, everyone seems to have the same last name. It's because they were cousins. From what I understand, this is Channel 12, was rushed to the hospital, was later pronounced dead. Aiden died protecting his fiance. And I believe he is in the yellow jersey in that film. Giarusso's son, Gian, confirmed his father's an assistant principal at Shea High School in Pawtucket. Wow. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Again, what I've learned is they didn't tell the shooter. The shooter's mother died. Her wishes were she didn't want him anywhere near the funeral home in North Providence. And then when he learned about that, that's what I've been told, that's what triggered him and set him off. So listen, and for those that like, motive is important. Motive is important in these cases. I don't understand why people don't think. Now, by the way, Channel 12, they also have the story. Pawtucket ice rink shooter has son in prison for church fire. I'm not the only one putting that story out there. Contact Channel 10 and 12. Friends remember Rhonda Dorgan as calm in the storm. Terrible. She had two great sons. Two great sons. I feel terrible. Police seized additional weapons from Pawtucket ice rink shooter's home in Maine. This individual should not have had access or been around any firearms. Period. Basically, end of story. And I think it's worth having a conversation. It is worth having a conversation of the dangers of someone who goes through gender reassignment, the danger of gender reassignment mixed in with someone that's already experiencing mental illness. If someone has mental illness, I want to just put this out there. I don't think they should be given gender reassignment. Again, there's a world of difference between what, say, Bruce Jenner, who started to change the name, right? Went from Bruce to Caitlyn Jenner, to wearing the hair in a ponytail, to dressing as a woman. That's a huge difference of someone who gets surgery, has things removed, has things added on, is taking all the hormone stuff like that. Who knows what that does to your system? Clearly don't know. Now, when you mix in that someone is taking anabolic steroids, now you have roid rage. So now you have a transgender individual who, and not a small person, by the way, jacked with Nazi tattoos and experiencing roid rage and flies off the handle when that person learns that that their mother had died and they were not invited to the service at the funeral home. So yeah, I think that's very consequential. I think if the LGBTQ trans community, if they want to have a real conversation, the fact of the matter is we don't know the effects of a lot of these drugs. And as soon as, and this is where I take issue with Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, and they immediately pivot into that it's a gun issue. When I think you can make an issue, there's a lot more to this. It could be a drug issue. If someone has a drug problem, and as a result of that, it causes them to do violent things, then the drug problem should be the discussion of it. If someone has a drinking problem, and as a result of it, it causes them to do things that they can't explain and that very unusual, abnormal behavior, well, then, then it's a discussion about alcohol. But in this particular case, who is the doctor? I believe you will then, I think, see some kind of legal action of the remaining family. Who performed that surgery on that individual? Clearly very unstable. Um, I also wanted to mention Caitlyn Jenner, well off, a lot of money, and the whole element of becoming Caitlyn Jenner celebrated by ESPN. That everyone being told got to use the pronouns, can't criticize or knock that. But I want to point out that is, I think you could argue, hear me out, that Bruce Jenner had been wildly successful, incredible athlete at the Olympics in Montreal with the gold medal, then married into the Kardashian clan. So I don't know all the details, but you could certainly argue seemed to be seemed to be someone who was somewhat mentally stable. Not this person, not this person. Did Bruce Jenner, was that an influence? Was the whole Caitlyn Jenner thing? The time kind of coincides. Was that what this is? And then it all kind of trickles down. Then you have an unstable son from another marriage, and then it's like a domino effect. Everybody starts losing their mind. But someone who, for whatever reason, and always like mugging at the camera and like everything's a joke, and Roberta Esposito, and it's so whacked. So if I worked or had to interact with someone like that, I would find, yes, exactly. Shouldn't the doctors be held accountable? Shouldn't the doctors be held accountable? I mean, you're not talking about, from what we understand, this is not someone who was also in a place, uh, gender reassignment surgery, all the tests you have to have done, all the medications you have to have done. It's not cheap. So it doesn't seem like someone of means. And that's what led to the situation of, they're living with her parents, and her father said, I don't want that individual. I mean, what a conversation to have to go to the parents to say that Robbie now is saying he's claiming he's a woman and he wants to have gender reassignment surgery. I mean, what a mess is exactly right. My God. But who did that consult? Who did that consult of, yeah, yeah, you'd be much happier. You'd be much happier. That's what they do with a lot of those children. The public school teachers in Rhode Island with the teachers union. And I've heard from the parents, the teachers, we're going to keep it our secret. You take a 13-year-old girl, very unhappy for whatever reason, other than she's 13 and unhappy, and say, I think you'd be much happier as a boy. So we're going to keep it as our secret. We don't have to tell your parents. We're going to start you on your path where, you're going to have gender, switch gender. I mean, it's so, to me, that should be outlawed and criminal, because, and we're talking about irreversible damage, irreversible damage. And you could see this individual, it didn't work out the way maybe they wanted. They're bouncing around. The kids don't want to be around them. I think the daughter of one of the kids in the family said that the relationship basically broke down with the father after he went through the gender reassignment surgery. So now what is it? Now you're just like this weird trans person marching around in tight women's clothing and outfits with Nazi tattoos on you. That that doesn't sound like it would have a good outcome to me. Folks, this portion of the program brought to you by Kids Club on the Pike. Are you looking for some options for preschool or before and after school care or a birthday party venue? Kids Club on the Pike. Call them today. Now, they have different locations. Yes, they are located right on the Cranston Johnson line off 295 Plainfield Pike. Yes, they are, but they have other locations. So maybe you're a parent or grandparent And I realize it's school vacation, but they're looking for options for preschool or before and after school care or daycare. Kids Club on the Pike. Consider them. It's always good to have options. 401 443 5336 for Kids Club on the Pike. I also want to remind you now we are almost 1 month away from spring. Spring is, I believe it's March 20th. So we're coming up on 1 month from spring. At some point, the snow will melt, the snow will go away, be able to enjoy the outdoors. Watson Materials, largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island. Call them 401 885 0600. Watson Materials. The largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Materials. The most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials. Call Sean today, 401 885 0600. I want to repeat the North Providence. I don't know. That's a good question. Who picks up the tab? Would it be covered on your insurance? I don't know. I know in California that they were covering the cost of inmates that wanted to have it in California. I don't know. Rhode Island could be close. I do know that in Rhode Island, as much as all the elected officials were so quick to come out of the box and it's gun violence and blah blah blah, but I can tell you they don't want to have the conversation about mental illness. They don't want to have the conversation. That is it possible that this person shouldn't have gone through this whole gender reassignment. They don't want to talk about Governor McKee, and they don't want to have any discussion that is it possible that this person who was taking all sorts of drugs and female hormones and blockers and all these other things, and then mixing that with performance enhancing drugs, that it could have a chaotic effect on the body. When you look at the social media posts of this individual, to me, it comes off as someone who is not stable. To me, it comes off as someone who is certainly struggling, but it's chaos. That's the best way. The shooters, Facebook, especially X, it's combustible. It's chaos. It's chaotic. It's all over the place, and posting weird things and threatening things and threatening people that trans will go berserk. And oh my god, and the whole element of being at the hockey rink and was leaning on a rail, and some worker at, I think it was the Smithfield rink, said, "Sir, you can't lean on that." And that put the shooter, now this is in the past, like 0 to 90. Did you just call me sir? Did you just call me so, like, going crazy over the pronoun thing? The X account, I believe, is still up. It's out there. If you type it in, I mean, it's just been, there have been so many people that have hashed over it. I haven't spent a lot of time on it because so many other outlets have, number one. Number two, it's just bizarre. It's embarrassing. It's chaos. It's someone who is not there. It is, to me, a very troubled individual. And so that's where, that they should talk about it. They should talk about it. So now I want to mention it is, again, we're on the Nancy Guthrie case, going to be doing more, going to be out at the scene. A little bit of a cloudy day here. I get the sense that it's as if the FBI is resetting completely on the case, that they right now, and I also once again want to point out, no matter how many times I put this, people don't seem to get it. This isn't, she is missing, but this is an abduction case. And that's what the authorities are telling us. There's a world of difference. Some people just, for whatever reason, they can't make the distinction. This isn't a drug addict that's wandered off. This isn't a silver hair alert. Um, this isn't a runaway teen. This isn't a custody battle case within parents or family. This is an abduction case. That's the way, that is what the authorities believe. And the motive is still elusive. But for the people that just keep putting, I don't understand. There's all these people that are missing in the country, and no one, anyone that says that, they're ignoring the fact that this is an unusual abduction case where they believe that it could have been as many as 3 people showed up at the home of Nancy Guthrie at 1:30 in the morning, somewhere in there, and removed her from there. And she has not been seen since. And more that I hear is it was not a robbery. So it's very disturbing. It's still a huge story. We're going to have more on it as the day goes on. But I want you and people to be clear. This is not just a missing persons case. Right now in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, there's no people that are missing from abduction. None. Zero. Let alone anyone, a senior citizen. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure you follow the page, and we'll have more on the trans dad and also the latest on Where is Nancy. Folks, so crazy, these people, and they're endless. Why how come I can't post on it? Why can't I can what are they contacting Channel 10? Are they contacting Channel 12? The New York Post, Fox News, everyone that's posting on it? How come I can't post on it? I don't get it. That the shooter, and then that's his son. We did a lot on the son that tried to burn down the North Providence church. I had the mother on. Holy cow. So again, be very clear. I feel terrible for the young man lost his life, Aiden. I heard he was a wonderful, terrific young guy. And then there's his brother out on the ice. It is terrible. Um, I don't know. I don't know much more about that. Obviously, I heard great things about the mother, Rhonda. The whole thing is just so bizarre. It is. Thank you, Robin. All right. We'll have more later. We'll have more later, everybody.